A regular meeting of the Delta County Board of Commissioners is being held this date pursuant to the following call. In a letter to the Commissioners dated April 21st, 2025, and reading as follows. The Honorable Members of the Delta County Board of Commissioners. Dear Commissioners, a regular meeting of the Delta County Board of Commissioners is scheduled for Thursday, April 24th, 2025, at 9 a.m. in the conference room of the Delta County Service Center. Sincerely yours, Nancy J. Presrocki, Delta County Clerk. Please rise for a word of prayer. Lord, as we begin this meeting, we thank you for our many blessings. We ask for your guidance to help our commissioners make decisions in the best interest of the citizens they serve. Lord, we pray for the safety of our military men and women. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Malner.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Here. Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Commissioner Van Genhoven.
Here.
Commissioner Jensen.
Here.
Jensen.
Good morning, all. We will start with number 5, approval of the minutes of previous meetings, county board meetings from 4/15/25 and 4/21/25. Can I get a motion on those?
Move approval.
I only see 415 in the agenda packet.
4/15.
Yep. Only 415's in the packet.
Oh,
Move approval of 415.
Support.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passed. There was no committee of the whole. I need a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Move approval.
I'll support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passed. Number 7, presentation of written communication received and forwarded. There was none. We move to number 8, reports of standing statutory special meetings or committees and others. There was none. Number 9, public comment on agenda items. Anybody public comment on agenda items?
And there's no remote public comment either.
Thank you. We will move on to committee reports. The administrator report. Did you have something, Ashley?
Nope, there will be at the next meeting.
IT committee minutes from 4/15/25. Can I get a motion to put those on file?
So moved?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody?
Where are those?
I didn't see them,
I
but
was
I didn't
just-
see them.
yep.
How can we approve something that's not
I'm
in our
looking
board
for them
packet?
too.
That was not in there. Okay. Departmental updates.
I was there though, so.
Okay.
But I was just
I
looking.
get why you
I was
guys,
just
'cause you
looking
guys
for
were
them as
there.
well.
I'm looking for that.
I'm looking it off the
I didn't
paper, so.
see anything from, in our board, or in our next cloud.
Right.
So,
See no departmental heads, there's no departmental updates. We will move on to unfinished business, utility easement for OB Fuller Park, UPCO. Did we get everything approved? The river
So the
change?
changes have been made from Ford River to Bark River, and then also they did not add within the contract the definition of emergency, however, they're using the legal definition. And
And-
you'll see the note on the side of what their definition of emergency is.
I was just looking for that. Is that what's in the little comments here?
Yes, that's
Okay,
the
gotcha.
individual.
Okay, got it. So they're using the legal definition, so there's no, they don't have any specific definition. Okay, I would be okay with that, all right.
motion to accept the easement.
I'll support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passed. Payment of bills.
I've examined all claims presented and recommend payment of the following, and that the county clerk be directed to issue orders on the county treasurer to the claimants for the amounts allowed. Grand total of bills, $325,779.53. Commissioner expenses of $1,552.30.
Can I get a
Move we
motion?
pay our bills?
Can I get support?
I'll support.
We need a roll call?
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Vangenhoven,
Yes.
Commissioner Jensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Mallner.
Yes. Okay.
Do we have the sheet to sign?
Nope.
I did not receive anything from upstairs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, our bills are paid. We'll move on to airport manager negotiation. Yesterday, I sat down with Ashley and we discussed some things that were going on and he had a hard line of 85,000 and we did some discussion. I did go down to 77.5 and she's 80 and we ended up at 80 and the salary would start 60 days after she gives her notice for 80 and then October 1st, 2025, it would go to 85,000. And then the vacation, sick, personal, floating holidays, and personal days from sick, credited for non-union years of service, hire date of July 6th of 2020. Ability to flex time within pay period and negotiate eligible for non-union annual cost of living. Now, Ashley's qualifications, she does have a Michigan Airport Manager's license, Airport Security Coordinator certificate, bachelor's degree in Business Administration Management, bachelor's degree in accounting, minor in marketing. She has 10 years' experience in accounting with 5 years direct government experience, 8 months on the Delta County Airport Manager experience. So if anybody's got any questions, one of the things I did go over was the things that we will be needing, and June will be a FAA inspection. And let me get the rest of them here. And then she has to pass the August triannual exercise, which is an exercise that in case, because we live so close to water, in case a plane goes into the lake. So that'll be coming up in August.
Is that the triennial or is that the water rescue?
It's a triannual.
Okay.
It's okay.
We're actually gonna use the new plan for the exercise then. That's what,
The water rescue
the
plan?
water rescue plan.
That would not qualify because it's off-site. They want it on-site. So I'm working with Paul Geyer on setting a scenario. And that is set for the date, I believe it was September 25th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we also have a water rescue tabletop, which is going to occur, that's May 28th, I believe was the date. But it's towards the end of May, we have to bring, but those are it's two separate
Okay.
events.
We also discussed completing the airport audit, reestablishing an activity of PFC.
I'm sorry, John, real quick, the audit, when is that due?
The audit, I don't have a date on that.
What, I guess my question was, which audit are you talking about? Are you talking about the PFC? No, is it just the financial county audit? That's just it's a county audit.
Oh,
The-
because this is not tied directly to the airport.
Well,
It is.
It is because the airport is a fund of the county, but we're in progress right now with our financial audit, single
Okay.
audit.
It's a subset of the audit, but yeah, okay. And that's middle of summer, right? Isn't that like June?
Well, it's,
We're in process
we're
right
in
now.
process of it right now. The tentative date would be June 30th.
June 30th,
That I
okay.
talked with our auditors.
What about our PFC audit? Where are we at on?
That's a
that?
mess.
Yeah. Well, I do know that, but where are we at on our mess?
So on Monday, our airport board, we had a discussion regarding the PFC and where it is not in a it's not in an audit status with the FAA. It's on cancellation because of the FAA has questions. And they have asked Delta County to answer those questions. What the advisory board had requested was our current auditors to do some non-attest services for us and look into that. I did speak with our auditors and they had asked me which one would I prioritize, our financial single audit or looking into the PFC account, which I of course said the financial single audit. And then they would work on, if the board wants to work on those PFC, looking into that.
And can you, real quick, describe PFC to the public?
It's passenger facility charges.
Thank you.
Okay, the other thing that we discussed was the implementation of the security upgrade, which is CIDA, which we do have the equipment. We've had it for about, 6 months, something like that. And we're waiting for the wiring to come in, and
It's already been wired.
it's been wired.
The cameras haven't been turned on, however, I mean, we do have other cameras that are on, but these, the new ones. But my question was for that is, I believe we had a contract with Mead and Hunt in regards of the implementation. I spoke with Mead and Hunt last night, and we are going to have a discussion of where that is at. What they were contracted to do was to give us lists of items that we would need to change for that full SITA. And then it would be on the county to implement all of those changes. So we had discussed that.
The timing on that, as far as month?
Well, I don't know what changes need to be done. So, and we are supposed to meet, I just talked to her last night. And she is actually coming up next week, so that is gonna be part of our discussion
Okay.
of what we've contracted with them doing, where is the status of that? Because I haven't had a list of what needs to be implemented to
Okay.
make this change.
So the other part with that too is the actual training program that has to be actually implemented from scratch and badging, correct? All brand new
And badging. So we have to decide on the equipment for badging. Right now, we print badges for our employees, but it's identification. These badges would have access into different areas. We would get rid of the brass keys. We would also have to look at all of our gate keys that we have out. We would have to reestablish those. There's background checks that have to be performed, so it's a large process.
Did Mr. Ranstatler start this process? Because CITA was something that was on the airport advisory board meeting agendas for months.
Well, has he given the advisory board any updates on where it was in the status?
I don't recall one.
I believe we were waiting on the meet and hunt process. We were doing the
Yeah.
physical cameras
And the wiring.
and the wiring.
Yep.
But as for the implementation of the policies and making those
He didn't
changes,
have a plan, nothing of that nature.
I can review his paperwork and just see, but I wouldn't like to comment or assume on one way or the other without
Okay,
looking.
just because I remember before he left, he wrote this 15-page assessment, of things that had been completed and things that still needed to be done. But I don't recall if CITA was in there.
I can't recall.
Okay,
Also,
thank you.
but I can review it and
Yeah.
come back to that.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing we discussed was the optional professional education of Part 139 class. Another one was optional complete of the FEMA ICS class of 100, 800, 200, and 700. So We discussed quite a bit of stuff at that time, and she's gonna try to do her best to get whatever she can online.
A lot of those items, the FAA inspection, the triennial exercise, we mentioned the water rescue, those are tasks that have to be performed, you know, it's part of
yes.
the job. The PFC analysis, we already spoke about CIDA. And then the other three, the trainings, the Part 139 trainings, those are scheduled for May 19th and 20th, and I can register for those items. They're virtual class, training classes, and they're 8 hours each day. And then the other trainings that were mentioned, those are FEMA, working with the FEMA emergency platform. And I guess if the board wishes for me to fulfill those are a part of the airport manager position.
And when are those offered?
They're at your own.
Oh, so there's not like a specific date that they have to be?
No.
Okay,
Okay, so right now.
They were mentioned in the EOC meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
okay.
So right now, we're looking at, if you give 60 days notice to the Board of Commissioners to vacate your administrator controller position, that would lead us to July 1. So within 3 months, you would be given the $5,000 increase up to $85,000. Was there anything attached to that as far as completion of things, certifications, or was that just a broad, you're going to make that hop in 3 months no matter what? Was it dependent on anything, is what I'm
No.
asking?
It was not.
Yeah,
She-
so,
You know, with Ashley handling, the 4 jobs that she's got on her head right now, I believe until we get either an interim or a, administrator right away, she'll be working on as fast as she can with the other jobs that she has to do.
so I think it's important that we realize that a move from 80 to 85 is in perpetuity. It's not, it's not a one-time thing. This is a salary adjustment that will be in place for the rest of that fulfilled position. In order for the county to, if this was any position, it doesn't, not specifically this one, but a salary adjustment from one place to another typically has some value in which the county is going to receive associated with it. So, in my opinion, if we were to agree to this, we would need to have something that is tied to this $5,000 increase, because it's not $5,000 for just this one-time action. It's then every year. So why wouldn't we tie a completed FAA inspection, a completed triannual exercise, a successful, or I guess, completed audit, and maybe if we don't want that, because it's not specific to the airport, we could tie some of this training to that. Why wouldn't we do that? That just seems like a
Well,
logical.
The
There-
FAA inspection is already going to be done, what, June?
In June.
June 5th.
Right, and
The audit is going to be done in June.
Right, but but what Christine is saying is that we did the same with Robert Ransattler. He started at a wage, and once he completed things, then he was able to get that bump. What was it, 3,000?
Right, and that was for having the manager's license.
Was that
right,
the only?
I believe it was.
You
In the air-
believe or you know?
I don't know, I haven't reviewed his
Okay.
contract.
Yeah, because I need to know.
Do you know something to the contrary?
No, I
you were
don't.
here
I'm
for it.
asking.
Okay.
John, I understand what you're saying. I know these things are going to be done in these months. That's why it was important to know what was actually coming up that could justify an adjustment in salary, and not just, we're starting here and we're going to here I guess I don't even understand why we're starting here and going to there if we don't have something tied to it. I'm trying to understand the logic.
And just for clarification, I was not here when Robert Ransdotler was hired.
Okay.
Yeah, that was before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess what we're looking at is.
I mean, I
when
have,
we- When we did when the hiring came through, we had 7 applicants. We had 2 good applicants that one was offered 75, she said yes, and then about a week later, she said no, she had personal problems, she wasn't coming at all.
She said 75, and within a year, she wanted to be up to 80.
Okay.
That's clarification.
Yep.
That needs to be
Okay.
stated.
Yep.
Yep.
Could I
Now-
have clarification on, John, you were here for sure during Mr. Ranstadler's hiring. Matt, you weren't here yet? Okay.
John's the only one.
John, do you remember what the qualifications were for Mr. Ranstadler to go get a bump up?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
maybe we could
remember.
take a moment and find it.
I'd like to
in-
find it.
Yeah, let's just take a moment
It
and
would be in
find it in the.
personnel. And he was hired in October.
I think it's important.
He was hired October 23.
It says the offer will include the following terms. Start date October 11 of '23, full-time employment status, wage based on 58,000 annual. Completion of airport manager license. After receiving your airport manager license from the state of Michigan, your annual salary will increase from 58 to 60.
So it was a
Okay, thank you.
2,000 increase,
Yeah.
not 3,000.
Well,
like I stated.
2,000,
58 to 60.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
But there was, I think what's important is that the increase is tied to something. There's a value that the county is receiving, not just time, but actually something that's stated, something that's specific. It's a goal, it's an expectation, and I think that's what's important here. Do I believe that we're going to pass our FAA inspection under Ms. Young's guidance? Yes, absolutely I do. Same with the triannual exercise and everything else for that matter. But I think it's important that if we're going to agree to increase someone's salary in some period of time, that there is something in return for that and not just time passes. That's what's important to me. That's what I'm trying to convey.
So even though it's kind of a layup and pretty easy shot, we still tie it to it.
Yes.
I don't know what we want to tie to it, but I think something needs to be tied to an increase in someone's salary. Because that is in perpetuity. This is not a stipend that,
Right,
you're going to give us this
Right.
extra time and you're going to do. This is forever, and I think it's important.
I guess I would ask Miss Young, are you comfortable making a layup, or are you not too comfortable making that shot? And the layup meaning the May 28th tabletop, the June FAA inspection, the August tabletop exercise.
My question is that FAA inspection is for a full year, which I would only have from January until May. That was under my direction. So then I'm putting my increase reliance upon somebody else's work.
That would be correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
I'd be okay striking that too, because that's a good point.
The triennial exercise is something that I'm, coordinating. And then along with the water rescue, so. I'm
We also have to note that, a past FAA inspection can come with, things that, we have to correct,
Correct.
So when the FAA gives their report and they say, oh, we're dinging you on this and dinging you on that, I mean, to be completely honest, for Mr. Ranstadler to get a full, clear FAA inspection was like, and because there's always been dings. It could be something as far as like, a runway light being out, or the fire extinguisher is out of, is expired, or something of that nature. You just never know what it's gonna be, and it's always dependent on who the inspector is at the time. So putting a completed and passed FAA inspection is kind of, it could fall either way. Like, I would see dings, or the public would see dings, and they would go, oh, we didn't pass, but maybe we did. But there, like Ashley said, it could fall on something that happened before.
And that was one of my questions I
And-
asked Commissioner Mulliner, what is the definition of success?
Yeah,
A
at this
successful
point.
inspection, because you receive, like those dings, and then you correct them within 30 days, and then you pass your inspection. Is that the consider of a pass
Right.
inspection?
And I would be
Or
more, I would be more
Is it the
comfortable.
initial report?
I would be more comfortable tying it to the Part 139 completion.
Yeah, can you describe Part 139 real quick?
So Part 139 is our FAA regulations with the commercial side. It's our airport certificate, and it's a training course that is being provided, that is the basics of an individual coming into airport operations and knowing the terminology and all of that.
Okay, well, that seems like it's important.
Yeah, it's very important, and our top candidate did not have the Part 139. She would have had to complete that as well, and then she was asking for the bump up in pay of $5,000 within a year. So I would be more comfortable tying it to a Part 139 completion, because that's like a pass or, or not type thing. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, I would be up to the Part 139 training, and it is something that I do want to.
I'd be comfortable tying it to that also.
Right,
Yeah,
because
that
things
makes
like
more sense.
PFC are gonna take time. The water rescue plan is something we would have to do anyways. The triennial is something we would have to do anyways. You know what I mean? Those are things that need to be done regardless if you accept the position or not, based on the negotiation. But the Part 139 compliance is a good assessment to see, you pass this, you get the bump, you get. If everybody else is.
And then I think we could do the CITA and the PFC audit. We could look towards those possibly for an evaluation in the future and say, hey, how did you get to these goals, or how close are you to these goals? And we can evaluate accordingly.
Yeah, things of that nature, because the PFC is something that has been an issue for 3 airport managers now, and with it changing hands so many times, it's been hard to assess. And so I would grant her the grace to, that it's gonna take as much time as it needs. But since she's been our interim, she's given us regular updates on it on a monthly basis. She's taken direction from the airport board on, the avenues we wanna take towards it, and those things have been successful. So I would say definitely, based on her role as the interim airport manager in handling monthly airport advisory board meetings, she's been thorough. She's been able to answer our questions. I do believe, and I will stand behind this, that I do believe she is worth the $85,000.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And we have to look at longevity, and I believe that she's here for the long haul as well. So I'm very strong that as long as she passed the 139. I do have questions about the other things, but the wage, let's figure that out
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
So.
The one thing I wanted to add too, with the PFC account too, like you had mentioned through the previous managers, it had always been reported as an audit status, and we were waiting on the FAA, and come to find out in a short period of time as her as the interim, we've actually found out that that's not the case, and that they were actually waiting on other stuff. When I say from us as a county, it's also the firm that we had taking care of that. So one of those items, I think, goes back all the way to 2011, was the
That's the
earliest.
first item, first
So
question.
she was already able to identify where that was at and the probable cost. Now it's getting the hard copies to support that. But that's in this short period of time, she was able to identify that previous ones had not.
So I just have a couple of other things, if you don't mind. The ability to flex time within a pay period, is this a normal This is normal, right?
That was the questions I was gonna ask too after we finished the wage component.
Oh, okay.
You know, you're becoming a department head, and I wanted to know if other department heads received that same.
Yes.
I would think so in this particular
Case.
type, especially in this field, because you don't know if you're going to be there at midnight one night or, 6 o'clock in the morning another day, It's
Correct. And I just want to emphasize within a pay period. So
Okay.
it has to be resumed. It's not going to show up as a liability to the county as something that, you have a sub-ledger or it's on a leave bank or anything. It has to be within that pay period.
Okay, perfect.
I just don't want other department heads coming to us and going, hey, I want that too.
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you.
And then I noticed that you have a minor in marketing, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is fantastic for the airport. And I think, there's consideration that economic development can occur within our airport, and I think would be very beneficial in the future. Of course, not right off the bat, because there's plenty of things to catch up and get done. But I really do appreciate the fact that you have a minor in marketing. And there's some training there, and that could be utilized for economic development.
Many of our questions throughout the hiring process with the first round and with this round focused on the growth of our airport, the potential for economic increase to our county based on the airport. What we have told the other candidates and Ms. Young too is that we understand that this type of job is going to take at least a year to get under a belt, her belt before she starts looking at, growth and development within the airport. I think that she knows the direction that the Airport Advisory Board wants to take. She knows the direction that the Board of Commissioners wants to take, and I think she'll be able to implement that once we get once we get her in, once we get our assistant hired, we get the ops things taken care of. Right now, it's just putting out fires, and learning the actual position more. But I think she does have a leg up because she has had excellent communications with Mead and Hunt. She's had excellent communications with our TSA, with Unify, with our general aviation community through the help of Dennis Hopkins. She's got a one-up on a lot of things, but we do have to grant her the grace of, 1 to 1.5 years before we start looking at economic growth and development. I
And
would
with
say.
our regional FAA representative,
Yeah.
Detroit, I think is where they're at, correct?
For what?
Our regional FAA guy, individual that you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
they're
ADO.
on.
Our ADO, is that what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
The last question I have is, the 60 days, if we were to fulfill the county administrator position before that 60 days, so the start date will be, it could flex within that 60 days.
You want to know if I'm flexing, if you fill the role
Would you be
beforehand?
flexible? I mean, it's, because we're stating that the starting salary, or that we have this date in here, it says October 1, 2025, this additional, I'm wondering if that's
So,
adjustable.
When we were negotiating, it was 90 days, and we just assumed June 23rd would be my start date. And then 90 days would be September, but because of the fiscal year, I said, bump it just 7 days or 8 days.
To
and
make
have
it
October
easier,
1. So if
yeah.
you want to do, I guess 90 days after I'm officially not the administrator, if you have to flex that 60 days, and then it would be 90 days, I would receive that 85.
That's what I'm
Is
wondering,
that-
is if we
is
have some
that-
flexibility
Is
there.
that possible within this fiscal year, though? If we were to fill the admin sooner, and then you would go over, and then within that time, you would bump up?
So I do know that you have not been paying for an assistant manager since
Oh, right. I keep
December, and then you
forgetting
haven't been
that.
paying for an airport manager
Okay.
since January, so. yeah.
Correct, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just for clarification, so if we do find a county administrator before the 60 days is up, Ms. Young, you're okay working less, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting you to put it that way. Yeah, I would be fine working with the county on that, if you find somebody to fulfill that role.
Okay.
Okay.
So at this time, we need a motion.
Motion to accept the, I guess, motion to ratify the negotiated contract between our administrator and our board chair, with the addition of a completion of the Part 139 class, to receive the $5,000 bump. After the, 60 days, or after the October 1st date.
Can I get support?
I'll support.
Clarification. So it would be, she would only get the 5,000 after October 1st?
And the Part
And the-
139.
I thought it was 90 days after my
Because-
start date.
We have, I thought for budget purposes, October 1st made way more sense. But by then you should have your 139 done, correct?
That's May 19th and 20th, so.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And
By
then if,
October 1st,
It
you should
depends on,
definitely be done.
depends on how fast we get an administrator too.
right. Yeah, I think we need to clarify
So
that.
if we
Okay.
leave it
Yeah,
as
okay.
is,
So basically what we're saying right now is that she would start at 80, she takes her 139 in May, and then she gets to bump up to 85? Because that's what we're making the raise contingent on. So if,
I would
We
say
can make it a
up to
contingent on two
October
things, the
1st.
139,
Yes.
the 139 and the fulfillment of the time.
Yeah, that's what I would say as well.
What time?
Well, right now it's 60 days, so.
no, 90.
90
right?
days, sorry, 90 days. So we could stay with 90 days.
90 days of my start date, which will, the Part 139 will be complete. It's less than a month, but
Still, it would be, if it's
Yep.
June, it's July, August, it's still the, September. I mean, it would be nice if we could leave it October 1, because then it's the start of the new fiscal year, it's a brand-new budget, everything. But if that's not possible, then it's going to be contingent on a number of days.
Well, it's possible because it was part of the negotiation, October 1 was the bump to 85. So
Yeah.
it's not like we're trying to change anything.
So
Yeah.
we'll change it to contingent upon living at least until October 1st and completing Part 139.
well, I guess. I just want a moment to think about it.
Please, take your
Yeah.
time.
Take your time. Do you want to take you want us to take a recess so you can think about
Sure.
it, Ashley?
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
you had already agreed to the bump up on October 1st, so basically all we're doing is saying you'd have to complete the 139 to get
Right,
it.
my start date was June 23rd. And now what you're saying is that my start date could be tomorrow, just hypothetically.
Which you said you wanted to do.
Which would be
work.
less work for you, because you wouldn't be doing both of these jobs
Right.
at the same time.
So let's just take a
Yep.
recess.
Yep. Yes.
Can I get
Can
a-
I get a motion to,
I'll move to recess for 10 minutes.
Oh,
Is that okay,
support.
Ashley? Is
Oh,
that
actually-
enough?
While Ashley's
we can-
thinking, could I talk about, it's gonna take us at least 30 days to fill that spot. By the time we post it, by the time we do interviews, I mean, we won't hear back. So we're really splitting hairs as far as 30 days to 90 days. So we've got a 60-day window that
Well, we'll talk
we're
about
gonna
that.
debate
It's
about.
on-
But
it's on
anyways,
the-
just something to think about
yeah.
as we go into recess.
So
Okay.
I had a point of order in there. We already actually had a motion
Sorry.
and a second and fourth, so if we want to go in, a motion to go into recess, we'll have to rescind the previous motion.
Oh, well, Pat made the motion that it was October 1 and contingent on Part 139.
Yep.
Yeah, and we had a support on that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay,
So I
well,
can,
we-
I can rescind that motion
okay.
And I'll
since we're going
support
into
that.
recess.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah. And-
Yeah, I didn't hear no support.
Yep.
okay.
Now the motion to go to recess.
Support.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We go into
Thank you, Commissioner Jensen.
crunch some stuff while we're recessing?
Yeah, I have questions.
Yeah. John, you wanna crunch it? Hey.
Basically, the only thing we changed was that she might be able to get out sooner and she would have to do 139 compliance, you know. I mean, why else would you take this job, you know? No, I don't think so either.
I mean, they have a form in
Is Matt in there too?
there.
No, he's not.
Oh, no.
I'm like,
I was
ah.
gonna say. I thought you went with them.
No.
I was gonna say.
We can't have a forum in there.
There's a difference between giving her a minute to think about it and then taking two people with her to.
Yeah, no, different
I have no idea.
facilities.
I don't understand why that's going on right now. That would have been nice to have been explained.
And I think you need to ask the question when we come back, so, here, I was gonna give you these.
Thank you.
Yes, so, this is just a general comment for
Yep.
all of them.
Okay.
Let me go. This one is just consistency across all of them,
Yes.
you know.
Okay, yeah.
And then I have, comments, and then blah, 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 and this is where the majority of the stuff, so this is under qualifications, and I have, a list of stuff. Yeah, or
Yeah,
consider.
the qualifications was what was in,
Okay.
those are the only qualifications.
Yeah,
I was
well-
kinda surprised myself on that.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of, it's, adding the technology stuff, but
Yeah.
also being able to analyze things, having cloud-based, platform experience, that sort of stuff.
Thank you.
Which needs to go on all of our
Okay,
job descriptions at this point. Here's the controller.
Thank you.
So I also have some suggestions. I think there's maybe, these would be additional
Mhm.
qualifications there. And then this one was pretty simple. I did a question here, like I don't really understand this sentence, so I would,
Mhm.
and then these were, again, adding some of the technology stuff in there.
Thank you.
So.
Okay, great.
All right, and then these were just the extras that
Yeah.
were with it, so I'll just keep those.
Thank you. Appreciate that. You got my bag.
Oh, good for you.
I know.
Do you like it?
Yes. My problem is that I've got all these cute pockets that I can use and I just don't use them yet, but I'll get
Or
there.
you'll lose stuff in them.
I'll get there. I found it on Amazon. Be with myself.
Yeah, it's nice to have the stuff organized, because I just can't keep things straight if I don't have a place for everything. I do like it away.
No. It's on a file, you mean?
I definitely need things.
Bad with the label maker. Bad with the label maker.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'll have labels on.
Yeah.
And then
When I
shelves
started,
of
I have
others.
too, when I started my vacation rental, oh my God, I was like a label maker fool, And now it's it's a long-term rental, and these people are like, do you really need these labels?
I don't need this that says cups.
You probably don't.
It was good, especially like in the one office that I had, boy, because you're gonna go out and leave for 2 weeks in there, and someone's gonna cover them.
Yeah.
Them to be able to see everything that you already had laid out was huge. That and dry erase boards.
Yeah.
And everything's color coded.
Yeah.
Just makes it easier,
Oh, yeah.
especially at a glance for stuff like that. That's driving sports, you get even more colors.
Tree sale pickup.
Tomorrow.
It is this weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got some flyers for them to put out for the surveys.
I saw the QR code at the bottom of the notes.
Oh, good.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah, we've got it out in quite a few places, so.
yeah.
Jessica was saying that, Jessica from QVAL, she was saying that, Mark, they have the highest response to all the counties and townships that they've done, you know, by direct land. And that was, you know, out for 4 weeks, and they had the highest return. In 1 week, we've already beat them.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've got great community.
I was gonna say, it
We've already.
gives me a little more faith in those.
So that's great.
No. Correctly, is it geofence?
The only thing they're tracking is, I'm sure that someone's not taking the survey of 100 comments, you know?
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I would like to do, I mean, it'd be cool to like have businesses kind of like, who knows surveys?
Yeah.
And then
that'd be fun, a
you
little
geofence
competition.
it, and been like, this guy, that, and then you go, okay, this person won.
You know, we could do a little
Yeah,
competition.
yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea.
I mean, right now, it's not like you can do this survey. And not the.
Because I want to win.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, that we didn't. Surveys based on, one particular part that just really had a lot of comments or something. They'll probably do another survey and in-person session for that particular, property. I don't think that's what's gonna happen. We'll focus more on like age groups and type of use. Which is great.
Well, and that's that QR code boost, I
Well,
think as much as.
it's also, the college and the high schools are, you know, promoting the, you know, the 18-year-olds take the survey, because any work that we're doing in the parks right now, it's like, it's for them, you know, and their families, and so.
In their future.
Yeah, so, you know, you should.
But I mean, versus previous ones where it was just a paper copy to pick up.
Right, yeah, that's, you just don't, you don't meet the people with. My mom, is 82, on the phone, and she had made all these changes for accessibility stuff for her, and I said, I figured it out, and I'm like, I was so impressed with her, I was like, oh my God. You know, but yeah, these are just.
I know.
Did we specify
She got
10
talking with
minutes?
somebody.
Did we specify 10 minutes?
Yeah, we said 10 minutes, yeah. 9:39 is 9:49. Jack Smith's job description needs to be corrected, so. Send it, yeah, send it back out.
We're planning on personnel next Friday. if that's
Okay,
just
perfect.
available.
I'll get you the updates.
protocol during your review.
Okay, can we get a motion to come out of recess?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll continue with the number 2 airport manager negotiation package.
Yeah, can you just tell me, how it was determined that you and Commissioner Johnson would go talk to Ashley during this? Because I thought we were taking a 10-minute recess so she could consider. So I just want to know what happened.
Yeah, I'll take that. Because we took a recess, there's nothing that restricts two commissioners from talking things over. And being with the administrator, that didn't break any rules. As I was going back, I was like, oh, shoot, I'm probably going to catch heck for this. So I do apologize, but I would like to fill you guys in on what was discussed. There is a contract between the administrator and the county right now that says if we terminate her before her 60 days is up, that we would be liable for a lump sum payout. The administrator did not want to have that lump sum payout awarded when we were terminating the contract, technically firing her. And so the negotiation with that was that we would both initial that, hey, we're both okay, we're okay having the administrator step down, and that we would be putting in a new person, that it would not be a firing, so there would not be a lump sum payout.
Oh, yeah, that's not firing. She's
No.
choosing to take the step down. Yeah, okay.
However, I'm obligated to give you a 60-day notice
Per
if
your
you,
contract.
per my contract, and you're obligated to give me a 60-day notice.
Thank you.
So
you
that's
for
why
that.
I didn't want to have any questions later down the road.
Thank you for that clarification.
But that also did point out a kind of a flaw in our agenda right now, that we have on the agenda that we would like to do an interim administrator policy and look at it. And so at this time, I would like to make a motion to table the airport manager negotiation package to determine what we're going to do for the interim, because
It's
if.
already set. The interim administrator's policies.
Well, no,
are
but
set.
like, do we want to, like, is your intention to fill that like immediately with somebody? Like, I want to know, like,
No.
how much time we have in, like what you guys plan on doing with the interim. Like, do we even need an interim? I would like to discuss that, since that's part of the policy.
So did you want to table this and go back to
So I
it,
would-
I'm
or-
confused as why we would table this, though.
Because I think it's important to determine what we're going to do with the interim before Ms. Young agrees to anything, as far as, yes, I am willing to take a 15-day notice, or yes, I'm willing to take a 90-day notice, as far as
Isn't
when
it
her
up to
position is going to be
60
filled.
days? Is it up to 60 days?
We
No, I
say-
think it's 60
It's
days.
60
It's 60
days.
days, period.
Well, like we had discussed before, you said it would probably take 30 days to get an interim in there, and then we would want her to be able to provide some insight.
Or him.
Not,
Or
not,
him.
not an interim. It would take 30 days at least to get a administrator in there.
Oh,
I didn't mention interim.
I apologize.
So did you want to?
Yeah, let me ask a question, please, real quick. I don't understand why we would, because I don't understand the interim administrator concept here, because we have an administrator, and the administrator is acting as the administrator until
We filled it administrator.
until we fill the administrator position, or her 60 days, we've given 60-day notice, and she would then not be administrator anymore and take on the role of airport manager with no administrator duties. At that point, we would then be considering an interim because we haven't fulfilled
Right.
the administrator position. So why we're talking about an interim right now makes no sense to me.
Got it.
And
Thank you for that
So
clarification.
the reason why it came to my mind is because we are negotiating whether our administrator would be leaving, or if we replaced her earlier, then my worry was that we'd be looking for an interim sooner.
Wait a minute.
Because we said, hey, the second we can fill your job, are you okay taking less work? She said, I think so, yes. And then, so as a commission, we could say, okay, I'm gonna put Ms. Dubart in as administrator, and see you later, Ashley, we're done.
Okay, that was not the intent.
Okay, well, and
Okay.
since I wasn't the one who put.
And I
the
understand what you're saying, but
Item
that-
number 3 on there, I just wanted to make sure we
Okay.
had clarification.
I don't know who put
before we
item
moved
number
on.
3 on there.
I did,
Okay.
because I wanted everyone to know that we had a policy set in place if we decided to go the interim route.
Okay.
Okay.
That was
And I
the
just-
intention.
And I just wanted to like make sure we aired all that out and make sure I knew the intentions and the
Yeah.
administrator knew the intentions before we moved on with number 2.
Thank
And
you.
now I
Yep.
get it. So thank you for all that clarification. I don't think we should be tabling item number 2. I think we should be,
Well, we just took care of it in my head.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, great,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
all
All
right.
right, yeah, perfect.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
thank you. I love these discussions.
Do you have a motion?
Nope, so I rescind my motion because it got taken care of.
Okay, so so after after you guys discussed what was. Ms. Young?
So your offer was 60 days after notice or fulfillment of the county administrator position, whichever one is first. And then October 1 would be 80, or the increase, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
just contingent upon obviously passing the
Oh, and then the part
139, Part 139.
And you're okay with that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we will make the or we will make the adjustment to the contract that we've previously signed with both parties initialing it, so that we're not leaving 90 days
Oh,
or.
the
or leaving-
administrator
Yep,
contract?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect.
You're okay with that too? Okay.
Okay, and we as a commission, we should probably vote on that also.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're gonna have, do we have a motion right now?
No.
Okay,
No.
we need a motion.
That would be my motion, that we amend the current administrator contract to no longer require 60 days from the current administrator, contingent upon her signature, or her initials, saying that she will not hold us to the 60 days.
Okay.
And was there some value associated with that?
That way, we're not firing her early, she's not quitting early and breaking contract.
Okay.
Can I
And
get-
then, yeah, okay, and then the same things, the $5,000 increase to be,
Well, I'd like to
Oh,
do this
two
motion
separate
first.
motions.
Yep,
Yeah,
I'd like to
I
do this
thank you.
motion
I-
first.
Yeah, I'd
Okay,
like two
I
separate
apologize.
So I
motions.
just need
too.
support.
I'll support.
support.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry.
I'd like a roll call on this.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes,
Commissioner Vandenhoven?
Yes.
Commissioner Jensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Melner?
Yes. Okay. On to number 3.
Oh, now,
no.
Oh.
now I would like to make a motion
That's
to accept the ratification of
Terms.
the terms and the negotiated contract,
Can I get support?
It's not a contract.
or negotiated terms.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I get support?
I'll support that, but I have a question. Do we need to specify the terms more clearly in the motion?
Yeah, could you, you wanna
Yeah, can
throw
I,
that
do you
in?
mind if
Yeah,
I?
No, no.
Okay. That it reflect, a starting salary of 80,000 with a $5,000 increase on October 1, 2025, contingent upon a successful completion of Part 139 in May. And I think that's all we need. Is that correct?
Could we say,
Well,
could we say just a completion 139 before October 1st?
Yeah.
Commissioner, wouldn't it also state accredited for the non-union years of
Yeah, that's,
service?
I was just going to say I need to add that, so
Yeah.
I'll do that right now.
The 3 below it.
Yep. And including the accredited for non-union years of service. A hire date was July 6th, 2020.
Correct.
And the ability to flex time within a pay period, which is a normal occurrence within positions of this nature. Eligible for non-union annual cost of living, which is also a common occurrence within these positions.
Any
Or-
more discussion?
Oh, you have the support already. Never mind.
That was your second, right?
Yep.
Or support? Is there any more discussion? Again, I would like to get a roll call.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Genderen?
Yes,
Commissioner Jensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Brenneman?
Yes. Okay,
thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
thank you. Number 3, interim administrator policy.
That was discussed in the other.
It kind of got hodgepodge,
item.
Yeah.
correct?
So if there's nothing to address,
No.
Do we need a motion to accept that?
Well, that's
No,
already.
it's already
a
okay,
policy.
so the-
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The interim administrator policy was approved long ago.
Okay.
I wanted it in there in the event that we decided to go with an interim, not realizing that we had the contract with the 60 days. So my apologies for that.
So no action.
No action.
No action. Number 4, steps to hire an administrator.
this was requested to go on. And I don't know where the commission lies with the steps, but previously, what has taken action was updating the job description, reviewing the administrator controller contract, posting, review of applications, interviewing applicants at a committee of the whole, and then the recommendation to the
Okay.
Board of Commissioners to approve outside of the. So for the review of the job application, how would you like this to be conducted? It was during a committee of the whole meeting because it's contingent upon the contract, they're kind of, similar. Or do you want to proceed this through finance personnel meetings?
My preference would be that personnel take on the job description, updating of the job description, review and update, and then finance would look at the updated job description and evaluate salary, and then it would come to the board. That would
Well-
be my preference.
Okay, because we just went through this with the controller administrator, and it was determined that instead of going back and forth between committees, to have a committee of the whole.
Right, no, and that was just because we had gone back and forth so many times. I'm not suggesting that we're going to go back and forth with the finance and personnel committee. It may just be a one shot, but on the last one, we had gone back and forth 3 times.
No,
Yeah,
Finance had seen it once.
one,
Let
it was twice with finance.
it was on the agenda, but it was never, no action was taken, not because of questions, but it wasn't back and forth between the two committees. The one that was going back and forth between the two committees was the Board of Commissioners policy for their per diem. But we didn't go back and forth between the two committees for the controller or the administrator.
Okay, we'll,
let me ask you this.
we'll just agree to
or-
disagree right
Yeah,
now.
let me ask the commission this. We're talking about going forward, okay? Are we splitting these positions out, or are we keeping them combined?
So maybe
I think
because-
that would be the first step.
That may be a
in
good reason to have
identifying.
committee of the whole.
It is, in my opinion, to have a very well-oiled administration office. We need to separate out the administrator, the controller, and the HR. And I understand that financially, that's going to be very difficult to do, but I do feel that the administrator and controller should have never been recombined in the first place. And we've had the HR specialist out for applications for a year already with no qualified candidates. So I would think updating the job descriptions as 3 separate and determining wage based on those would be first step, but I'm open to ideas.
Well, I would agree that it has been problematic to have the county administrator / controller combined. We've obviously seen that it's been problematic more than once, so I would agree with you on that. And we obviously have an open position for an HR specialist right now. So I just realized that a committee of the whole might be a really logical first step for because we want to separate, if we wanted to separate these positions out, that may be a logical first step. I wasn't thinking that way initially, but I could see that that might be beneficial, because then you're kind of doing it in one shot versus having personnel make the decision whether they're separating them out, and then you come back, and then the
Right,
board
that's what-
says, wait a minute, I don't want those separated out, so.
Right, I mean, that's why I wanted to open up this
Yeah.
discussion right here for, steps to hire an administrator. It
Yeah.
doesn't say steps to hire an administrator / controller.
Right.
So
Right.
then we would have to, which we were intending on splitting those out, or looking at options on splitting those out at the last two personnel meetings. Anyways, my theory is that, a controller / HR specialist, which Ms. Young was before she took the administrator duties, that role is, there are two specific sets of
They're very different.
experiences, right? And so you're going to have to teach the person potentially one of the two things. Maybe I'm just making an assumption on that, but I would rather see it split out. That's just me, though.
Commissioner Johnson?
But as a, now as a admin / HR, you do take classes as far as in your business administration or your public administration, to handle the HR. So I would be comfortable with the admin / HR, with the controller being separate.
Ooh, that's a lot to
And-
put,
and-
that's a lot to put on an administrator.
But it also falls to the administrator anyways.
Supervises or
Yes.
oversees,
Well,
but
and-
not actually does the work. I mean, enrolling people for benefits and insurance, and, I mean, that's a lot of work.
We also have our board secretary to split some of that off.
I guess that would depend or not if
think
that
this is-
falls
I
within
think-
her
But
discretion.
anyways, I think this is a great reason to have a committee of the
Thank you, I
whole.
was just gonna say,
Yeah,
this is a good
no, I
example
agree.
of why
So we should just,
a committee of the whole would be
Okay.
important.
And we are on the
We do
clock.
that.
We have October 1st. As far as,
yeah, I know.
so
That's why I
a
wanted
committee
to-
of the whole is, to me, is faster than.
That's why I wanted to decide today. You know me, I'm like, let's get this done. I mean, what would we need to have a committee of the whole for? Why would we have to have another meeting? Why can't we discuss it right now? Why can't we discuss it right now? What are our thoughts? So
Well-
you think that an administrator HR person would be, would suffice along with a controller, right? I feel that it would be administrator, controller, HR specialist. What do you think, John?
I was always thinking that the controller HR should be together, but as Commissioner Johnson just said, the administrator does the hiring of most of the employees anyways. It would be nice if those two jobs were put together, administrator and HR, and have a controller. Second, having all three, if you can take that HR and put it to another, either the administrator or the controller, you are saving the salaries and you're also saving all the benefits.
I don't think you'd be saving salary, because if we were to put the HR specialist responsibilities into the administrator's responsibilities, we would have to significantly increase their wage.
One of the parts that, if I consider it, if I was before under the controller, I don't think that's a debate really here, unless I'm missing something, that needs to be separate.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's two separate sets of eyes looking at stuff that's financial. That just makes more sense. When it comes to the HR being listed under the controller, you're talking about somebody that, under the controller is basically a CPA, and you're asking them to do the other side of the admin. So those two together, I guess, to me, never made any sense. It does make sense just from under the administrator, which it does. Now, I also realize that's a full-time position, especially with the amount of employees we have across the board. So is that one of those where right now, we have an administrator that literally fills 3 full-time jobs and routinely does between 80 and 100-hour weeks? Or is that one that it's the administrator in HR with the understanding, we already know there's federal requirements or state requirements that they have to be able to meet for HR as well. I agree and understand that it's part of what you would do in your education process as administrator, and yes, ultimately, you're the one responsible. Is that one that even down the road, if we really see that it's that much, is that something that's even a part-time position versus a full-time position? How many hours are actually invested for HR? That's what I'm looking at.
Can I ask, Ashley, can I ask you your opinion? You are in this role, you've been in this role, you were in the office prior, and you were witness to or party to the work that needs to get done. What is your opinion on these three positions? And let's just, your opinion, without considering the finances, and then your opinion considering the finances, because I think those things can often lead us in a direction that is very myopic, and maybe we shouldn't, and we should be thinking about things differently, and then figuring out whether or not we can
So
go the direction that we want.
if I'm to understand it right, you're asking the question if money was no object and if money is an object.
Not necessarily that way,
Okay.
because what I'm suggesting is that, based on what we need, there are potentially ways to fund or use other resources. I don't want money to be the defining factor as to what our structure looks like. I'd like to define what our structure should look like, and then we say, oh, well, maybe we could take this already existing position and redefine its role to fulfill some portion of what we are needing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying if money was no object, no.
Okay.
I
That was
just-
my fear.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm not. I just want to understand, like, what is our ideal structure for the work that needs to get done? And what does that look like?
So administrator, obviously, position there. You're a full-time controller for the finances. We're a large entity. You need somebody looking at these, answering questions for department heads on a daily basis, also fulfilling reporting obligations and other obligations required. As the HR specialist, honestly, that's just shared right, and it has been even when I was controller HR, between the individuals in administration. We all take a piece of that pie.
Okay,
So if you combine those pieces, it probably would be a full-time position.
okay. And from your perspective, is having that a full-time position, is that allowing those other positions to do more functional or important work within their expertise versus, having to carve out some portion of their time for this other function?
So right now, they're working overtime most of the pay
Okay.
periods.
So that's good to know.
Yeah.
So based on the HR specialist / administrative clerk job description that we have now, and that was approved June 6, 2023, so shortly after Ashley took her role, we have HR specialist duties, that's 18 requirements, administrative clerk duties, that's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so basically, because we don't have this person, that's being split between Tracy, Mary, Ashley, so it was already established as a full-time position.
Okay.
And it's budgeted for a full-time position, so then it's just the split of the controller and the administrator. So I would like to see us go forward with 3 full-time positions.
So the reason I was told is I had to wait for that HR position because I wanted to convert it to a controller.
Yeah.
I was told to wait. I
Yeah.
waited
Yeah.
a year. And then, I guess now you're looking at opening up 3 positions full-time. So when I was asking for the controller position back, my plan was to use that funding. and was to eliminate that full-time position. So now we're asking for 3 full-time?
Wait, I'm not understanding, I'm
Was to
sorry.
use the HR specialist, was to eliminate that position and reestablish the controller position.
Right, so we would
So now
still
we're
have to
looking
add
at-
we would have to add another full-time wage.
Okay. I just want to make sure financially, because my answer was the
Right.
open pocketbook answer
Yeah,
previously.
well, and it's not open pocketbook. I want to make sure that that's clear. What I'm trying to get at, and this is looking at things a little differently than I think we typically do, because we tend to think about all of our work that we do based on the amount of money that we have to be able to support something. What I'm trying to get at is, do we maybe need to think about a restructure within a certain area of the county that could fulfill some of these duties that we need to get done? And maybe we free up some services that we're doing right now, or some actions that we're doing right now that are in current positions that don't need to necessarily be done anymore. Or, for example, are there HR functions that could be contracted or outsourced through online apps or service organizations or whatever that we might be doing in-house that could be a cost savings to us, which would free up a person's, maybe a current person's role to fulfill some of these 27 different functions that are on the,
Commissioner Johnson?
Not to be the dinosaur at the table, but 4 years ago, when we had all 3 positions, or when we had the 2 airport positions filled, we had the administration filled to where we wanted to with the controller/HR and the administrator, and the payroll. Things were nice. It flowed very well. I just want to build back to that.
Same.
It didn't seem like we had an hourly issue. There were some times where we had to flex time. We didn't have people late and overnight. I don't know, I don't necessarily know we need the extra position. I just want to get back to normal.
Yeah, I feel the same. The only reason that I was really adamant on splitting out the controller HR was just because they were 2 such different scopes of work that we were trying, that we would be combining. And I did a lot of research with different municipalities, different counties, making phone calls with administrators. And what they all are doing now, leading into things, is that yes, they had combined positions just as this county did, and found that it wasn't working. And so they have people retiring out, and then you have this new group of people coming in, and they're like, absolutely not, I'm not going to be your HR specialist and your controller. We have to move with the times, and we also have to make sure that our county is functioning from the top down. And to get a fully functioning and not overworked administration office is I think of the utmost importance for fluidity within the county. And then we can move from there. And that's just how I feel about it. But I agree that we do have to get back to some sense of normalcy. And you're not a dinosaur.
Well, and that's actually a really good point. When the depth in that office is minimal, to say the least. So if one person's sick, say somebody's already on vacation, you have one person
Yeah,
to
it's
cover
just not
down on
functional.
everything for the entire administration office. That's not even possible. I mean, that's not even putting fingers in the holes to stop the water from coming in. It's just not possible, and I know that's actually happened.
It's
Not
happened
long
more
ago.
than what
Right.
I want to say.
So do we want to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Christine.
here's an idea. What if I honestly believe the controller HR specialist has got to be separate. That's just, they're not, to me, they're not compatible positions for the person to be, really good at either one of those. But what if we were to have a controller position and then an administrator which has this HR function associated with it, but with the mindset that this new administrator is going to be given the flexibility to evaluate the structure and determine whether or not there could be some sort of restructuring within the administration to accommodate these roles where you're not, you're not burdening one position. I mean, I'd be flexible that way, but controller HR, I think the controller needs to be a controller. And that is just, it's a very, very structured position with very specific rules, lots of oversight, and, needing to, be in the minutia and the details. And they really need to be focused on that, and having like this HR function on top of that, that's a very sort of nebulous, and, there's lots of personality and conversations, and so they're just very different, so.
So how
Okay,
would we
well-
go through posting that then?
Commissioner Johnson.
I was gonna get at that. So the job description, what you're talking about would be, we'd write the controller job description, we'd write, the board secretary job description, we'd write the administrator job description, and we would say, for administrator, delegates, authority to where they see fit. And then the job description for controller would be, and other duties as the administrator see fits, is basically what you're saying.
No, that's not really what I'm saying, but that's,
Well, how would you
Yeah.
put it in there then?
I don't know exactly, but that's not really what I'm getting at.
So is it kind of like we would hire the administrator under the assumption that at that time she would also be our HR person, but
Or
with
he.
or he, I apologize, they would be the HR person too, but we would grant them the opportunity to split it out as they saw necessary?
I think what I'm getting at is allowing so here's what I'm thinking, is if we define this and we do it wrong, because honestly, we're not administrators and we don't necessarily know what this office needs. We are getting input, but someone coming into the role may see things very differently. And I would like them to have the flexibility to reorganize their department. And so maybe it would just be as simple as adding a line in a job description for the administrator that says, strategic, like ability to have strategic operational, organizational skills, or something like that, which gives them the flexibility to come to the board and say, I want to restructure this office, and here's how I see it. Rather than us saying, boom, 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 these jobs exist, period. We're giving this new administrator the option to, or I shouldn't say the option, the flexibility.
So you would like to, if I'm hearing this right, we hire the administrator, and then we include the new administrator in the construction of the possible controller job
Thank you.
description.
HR.
Or,
HR,
HR.
not
Well,
controller. Controller is very clear to me. Like,
Yeah.
controller's black and white.
Yeah.
to me, like, so or HR also takes care of like your retirement benefits. And so like controller has a pretty good knowledge of numbers and for retirement stuff. So a controller position for that specific HR goal or that HR task would make sense to me.
Right, they're just fulfilling, like, if you look at a controller job description, there's always, for government, there's always a line item that says, analyze and prepare data for negotiations, union, there's always that line item.
Yep.
Yeah,
And that, to me, that's a very good HR thing that a controller can do, and a controller is very good at that.
right.
So that's why that's why I say hire an administrator and then have them help write that controller thing and say, okay, this, I think the controller's better at than I am, and then if there's anything left over for like a part-time job, maybe HR, but
I see
So
where
in
you're
the
going, though.
meantime, our administrator would have to take on all those roles.
And I'm glad you just mentioned that, because that's kind of where I'm going with this. If we're getting ready to post this as a position, if we're gonna have those kind of lumped together to begin with, that's a completely different world and job description. because
wouldn't say
of
they would be
even what the
lumped.
pay range would be, having 3 full-time jobs in there.
No.
It would be just,
So who would do the
I-
duty while the administrator was building that department then? Or-
Yeah, that was not what, I want to make sure, I was not suggesting that we hire an administrator who's doing all of these things and then figure out what to do with the department. I was suggesting we hire a controller and an administrator.
Okay.
But the administrator would work with the existing positions to determine whether or not there could be some reorganization that could fulfill some of this HR responsibility that might be I think it's good, it might be a part-time position, it wouldn't be a full-time position, that sort of thing. But
Okay.
to me, controller is black and white. We need a controller, we should always have a controller, and that position should be hired, period.
agreed.
One
Okay.
thing we're kind of forgetting, it's hard enough to find 2 people, not alone 3.
Part of that.
It's very, very hard to find people to work. And on that, I think, we should leave it up to the new administrator. Definitely, we got to look for a controller and have the administrator, HR, until the time we can find a HR person.
And let the administrator decide the responsibility of that HR person instead of
Yes.
us?
Yes.
I'm okay with that.
Have them recommend it anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
Huh?
for sure.
It's still going to come back
Have them
here.
recommend.
Yeah, it's still gonna
Yeah.
come back here, yeah. Mhm. Okay, I'm okay with that.
That would make more sense.
I would
Do we
think,
need a motion on this?
Well, do we wanna just?
Or are we
we'll
still
kick it-
discussing?
So we'll kick the controller and the administrator, job descriptions to personnel. We're
Yep.
meeting next Friday, I believe, if Ashley has time. And then it'll go to finance, right?
And yeah, Matt, if you want to schedule a meeting after that next week, we
Yeah, if they're
can,
doing theirs Friday, we'll do that.
Meet the next week
probably.
early.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'll work
Sounds
that out
good.
with her and let you know.
okay.
Okay. So this was, number 4 was mainly discussion.
Yeah.
Any more discussion on this, or are we gonna decide?
can we set a goal, kind of a hard line when we want to post? And like where we want to post?
Okay, so. What?
I have a few more questions on the steps.
Yep.
Okay. So we discussed the job description in the contract. So posting job opening, where do you want that posted? Our standard is Michigan Works, county website, and then our entrances. Are there other areas?
What was the last thing you said?
Are just our
Entrances.
entrances.
I'm sorry. what-
Entrances?
Entrances, oh, God, I'm like.
Sorry.
I'm like, is that
I
my
am-
ears?
I will try to get Mac and Nico on, to post that also.
I would like to see us posting to Indeed.com and some other, and I'll get you a list, but I really think that we need to post to some additional sort of outside modern sources that people are going to, just come in contact with
In
the
the past, we've
position.
used Indeed before.
Have we? Okay. Well, it wasn't mentioned.
No, I
so-
know, I know. I was
Okay.
waiting for my turn.
Okay.
Okay. Review of applications and scoring. How long before, I know these are just questions that my staff are going to ask. How long before you want all the applications sent to you? What is your time frame? So typically, we review after 10 days.
I'm not sure, yeah.
So after,
Applications.
we set a hard line for, when we post, we set a hard line for applications must be due by this time.
Oh, I see what
Then we
you're
set a
saying.
hard
Okay.
line for, when we, get the applications, how long commissioners have to review them.
So should we go backwards?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
To
let's go
figure out-
backwards from
Yeah.
that 60-day mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah.
So 60 days from today is when? Let's see.
June 22nd.
And so,
Are we
okay,
doing business days or calendar days?
I would say calendar days.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you were going calendar days, right? John?
Ooh, that wasn't
Yes.
specified in the
Okay.
negotiation.
Assuming
It's not
calendar
Calendar.
days.
identified as business days, so then it usually falls
Yeah,
back to calendar.
I'm good with calendar.
Okay,
I
okay.
mean, so.
So June 23, so 10 days, so the interview process would be how far ahead of June 23? And you said that typically is in a committee of the whole?
The interview?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we would have committee of the whole, and then prior to that, we would have the review of applications, right? And then prior to that, we would have applications are due. Applications due.
We would typically have,
And then
the
we would
committee
have
of the whole would have two,
posted.
it'd be a first round, second round, just like we did for the airport
So
administrator.
two of them, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if Ashley is available for next Friday, that would be May 2nd for personnel. Ashley, are you available that day?
And Matt, if you can look at your schedule real quick for
Just
finance.
so we can get those two things squared away.
Thursdays is usually always open for that.
Okay, so Friday, May 2nd, 9, please. Yep. And it's gonna be here. Because I have opioid at 10.
Okay.
We said 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
You were asking them for the second? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking at the second. Bjorn's having a replacement on Monday, so.
So if you're at the second, the earliest would be is the 8th.
Would Monday, the 5th work for you, Matt?
Because then we have a county meeting on Tuesday, the 6th.
Yeah,
So we could get those two things squared away and then we could potentially post.
Yeah. If Matt's available on the
Yeah.
5th, and then,
Then you're,
In-
gonna make the exception to add things to the agenda on the May 6th?
Yes.
Okay.
Or we
What's your-
could we could just add it, we can just put them on.
assuming that the work will be done.
Assuming that the work will be done.
Yeah.
Yep, I've done that and then have to table them, so
Yeah.
I can do it
Yeah.
either way.
Let's do
Okay.
that.
That's
Um,
better than adding it,
Yeah.
so.
Monday morning, what's the availability for you?
I'm available anytime Monday morning.
I'm available Monday morning.
Okay, so
Do we want to look at
poten-
9 AM?
Okay.
Does that work?
Did you say 9?
9 AM?
Okay.
so then potentially Tuesday, we would approve, and then we could post for the administrator and for the, well, administrator, we're focusing on administrator. So we could post that by Wednesday or Thursday, do you think? If we get you the job description, salary? Or Friday?
Well, I let the individual know on Monday, or Wednesday, May 7th, so.
Uh-huh.
As long as they're able and eligible, to have the posting done, then it can be done on the 7th, or else it's usually done the Thursday, May 8th.
Okay, so May 7th or 8th.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then
And then how long do they usually, how long do we normally have them out for?
10 days,
We have until filled.
until filled.
Okay, okay, good. So then we would want applications due, so now we need to kind of go backwards.
Yep.
So from June 3rd, if we need 2 committee of the wholes, how much time do you typically have between those for interviews?
Usually do 2 interviews a day. So depending on how many people we select, I mean, if
Okay.
we have a million candidates, well, then we're in trouble. But,
Well, let's assume 6,
yeah,
you know,
so we need like 3-4 days.
okay. In between.
Yep.
Okay, so then June 23rd, let's look at what date that is.
So we have, yeah, and then we have
That's a
the
Monday.
60 days, making assumption that this person would probably have to give a 2 weeks' notice to their,
30 to 60 days.
Yeah, I was gonna
30
say,
to
it.
60.
Yeah.
We've noticed that too. It tends
Yep.
to be, from the time of the offer, it's
so I
normally
think
30 to
like the
60.
first part, we should try to get done as
Okay, so
diligently as
post
possible.
is until filled, so we'll just leave that out. So then, applications due, so we're not saying applications are due by a certain date, we're saying we're gonna start the interview process by a certain date.
Yeah, we could do that.
Is that, okay, because it's not really applications due, so interview process.
But for our sanity, as the applications come in, we get them forwarded. Like typically when I look through the applications, I score them, I'm like, okay, that one stands out, that one stands out, and we bring out like our best 5 or best 10.
Okay.
And then when we meet as a committee of the whole, just to go through and say, okay, this guy, yeah, this guy, no.
Okay.
These were my top 5.
But we kind of have to have a deadline for applications due, because otherwise people are gonna assume that it's just post until.
Well, we could, yeah, we could say
Right.
applications will be reviewed starting.
Yeah.
Instead of
That's-
saying due by.
That's what I
Okay.
was
That would
requesting.
be, yeah.
How many days after we make the posting are you wanting all of the applications? Because we don't send them as we come in.
No.
We send it as a group, so like we did with the,
Airport.
Report,
yep.
yep.
And I just want to know, is it 10 days after posting, you want your first trench of applications? Is it 15 days
I would
after
say,
posting?
I would say 10 days.
10 days.
10 days,
Okay.
give us the pile. And I
Yeah.
mean, I would trust administration to go through and be like, high school grad, and go through like the non-qualified. Like, I'd want the, kind of below what our standard's gonna be.
So.
Or do you guys wanna go
Oh,
through
I
and
want
then
them
you
all.
wanna see
See 'em
every
all,
high school
yes.
grad,
Oh,
every
yeah.
every paper boy,
Yep.
every
I want 'em all.
JV
Yep.
We're
football
gonna have
coach.
on there
Okay.
that
See 'em
needs
all.
experience.
Yeah. all
Yeah,
right.
they'll be,
Yeah.
obviously.
So the
Sorry.
other one, this,
Okay.
this goes to our HR, the director of our HR department.
Yeah, that would probably. be
So we
our
have
Are
HR
you
to-
able
Which
to
is
provide
Ashley,
a
yes.
rubric again?
Well, and that
Just
was
got enough
my,
on our plate.
my follow-up question
Okay,
is,
sorry.
do you want to have a rubric created by the commission? Or do you want to utilize the one that, we've utilized in the past? I can send it to you, or do you want time to create your own?
I
No, I
think
think
the
we could-
The one that we
week,
used for the airport was very good.
yeah, I
Yeah.
Okay.
agree.
That would be fine.
Yep, for
Then-
the first set, yep.
Yep,
Right,
and that
okay.
creates a nice standard across the board.
So rubric, sorry, one second.
So how about we say that we start evaluating the first set of applications that comes in, that would be like on the 19th. So that gives,
Of May,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
So Ashley, you would forward applications that have come in on May 19th, and then at that point, we would schedule committee of the whole based on the number of applications.
After, yeah, like, give us like 2-3 days after May 19th.
Yeah. So when do we have our, oh, so the 20th would be our regular board meeting. So then we could schedule a committee of the whole for the next week, which would be, outside of, I mean, we could that week if we wanted to, too.
Actually, yeah, that would work. If, with the regular meeting on the 20th, we would know if we actually have any applications that we would have seen on the 19th to be able to schedule.
And that gives
A
us
date
some,
and time, yeah.
yeah, it gives us some time to review, and then at that meeting, at the 20th meeting, we could actually schedule the committee of the whole. Everybody would be here, and,
Yep.
okay.
Okay,
More questions?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to have a clear understanding of this, of your process. Interviewing the applicants, we do it at a committee of the whole meeting. I believe there are interview questions that were previously used. Do you want new interview questions, create your own? I don't know what those questions look like.
I
will-
want to use the
I think
ones.
we had a list, didn't we, Pat?
Yeah, I would say put out the list, and
Okay.
then we review it and add or subtract. If I remember right, when we did our interview, for the first interview, it being structured, we had to ask everybody the same questions to not have bias.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I would still suggest we do that, but I wasn't a part of that, so I definitely would like an opportunity to look at the questions and
And at
adjust.
that time, if one of the other commissioners has a question to add, it has to be put on each.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 'cause
So
you
like
want,
your
it's
first
equal.
interview, we
Yes.
gets, you add all the questions you want to add, and then we just go through it, and then we just have to ask everybody.
Are we
that question.
streaming
I
those?
wasn't involved.
I'm
No.
sorry, what?
Are we going to be streaming those,
The meetings,
the interviews?
the interviews?
I wouldn't.
The only reason I'm asking is because the way that I had done it with airport was that I didn't ask questions. I sat behind my iPad and took notes of everything. And so when we had our hiring, meetings afterwards, after we reviewed all the candidates, we were going through and talking, and then I was able to pull up all my notes, and Brian and Matt, and I think Ashley were appreciative of that. They said, oh, well, thank you so much for doing that. So I would prefer that if we're not going to live stream them, that I would be able to be granted that possibility
The
to
only,
just,
the only thing I have about live streaming them is the other candidates can also look
Yeah.
at it.
and I'm okay with
That's-
not live streaming.
that's a good point,
I'm
John.
just asking if I would be able to do that, if that would be okay with the commission.
I will say, based on how that worked last time, it was extremely helpful because you're doing stuff, you're looking, you're back and forth with the candidate. Here's something, even when she's typing, is always on the candidate. So there's little parts where, you know, when someone's thinking they're doing that, look up, look right and up, you know, or are they looking left, down, you know? And those are just little tales on, you know,
Yeah,
whether they're thinking, honesty, whatever. And those are little ones that she's able to focus on that and actually make a note of when you're in the process of asking that question, you know, you're looking down. It was really nice to be able to see that and have that information available from an observer's
Yeah,
point of view.
I'm okay video
Yeah,
recording.
it
I'm
worked
just,
really
No,
well.
not even video recording,
Nope.
I just type everything up as they answer the questions
Yeah.
and,
so you would want to be omitted from asking questions?
yes.
Okay. I mean, if you don't want to ask a question, I'm fine drilling whoever. I'll just read down the list, but
It was really helpful when we went back and had the discussions afterwards. It actually filled in some blanks that individuals
It was just a
had.
different way of doing
Yeah.
things, but it worked well for
Yeah,
that
it did,
situation.
yeah.
and I would be fine with that too. I agree, John made a very good point that you're going to be asking a set of questions. You don't want other candidates to have that set of questions
Yes.
readily available to them.
Okay.
Or watching another candidate, how they perform during an interview and having, you know.
That makes sense.
technically they can show up to our
I
open
know,
meeting.
Yep.
they
But
can, I
it,
know.
it's going to be frowned upon to see that
Yeah.
audience member and go, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay,
I hadn't
thank
thought
you.
about that, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Getting back to our schedule, though, so, Ashley, you had asked a question about, the questions, so those questions, you're gonna send them out to us right away, and then that would give us, we have got, where are we today? Here we go. So we will have a board meeting on, do we need to accept, how do we actually accept those questions without the candidates knowing what the questions are?
We just have them.
Yeah.
We don't have to formally accept them.
Okay, good, all right.
So I wasn't
then,
involved in this process. My assumption, for the question process last time, I believe commissioners may have sent the questions over to one person in the county and then compiled them and then dispersed
Oh,
to each
okay.
commissioner.
Okay,
So it wasn't actually like, these are approved questions. It's just that,
Like the clerk.
yeah,
okay.
if that would be
Yeah,
the
our board
position,
secretary.
or, I didn't want to label who it was, but somebody in the county
Yeah.
fulfilled that.
Okay.
I wasn't
Yeah.
involved in that part,
Yeah.
but.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so someone's going to send us the questions. We'll have an opportunity, the current questions, the ones we used last time. We'll have an opportunity to suggest others or modify, and then we just send them to the clerk, and then the clerk will compile the list of questions. Okay, so that can happen anytime then. There's no time frame around that. So are there any other timeframes that we need to be worried about at this point, or are we good with what we've got?
I think for what we have for the timeline, those are the first steps because any additional timelines are going to be driven by
Based on,
those,
yeah.
on the outcome of those.
For the airport, you guys were open to the option of the first interview being virtual, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we would be okay with that for the first interview being also virtual,
And-
I assume.
and the
I would
only-
be okay with that.
Yeah, the only thing, if we're going to do those virtual, even if it's a candidate that's local, if that's the standard we're going to use, every one of those are, for that first round, are virtual.
Well, we just offer the option. We don't say they're virtual. We just say,
I'd prefer if we're gonna do the first round virtual, everybody's virtual, even if they're local, because you're gonna have two different appearances and perceptions of the individual, one in front of you, and then the one that's virtual, because people act completely different when it's on camera versus off camera. The other side is if one of those individuals that's already been physically here is selected for a second interview, they actually have an advantage of having actually physically sat in front of us versus the others that would have been virtual before.
But the interview process is all about standing out anyways. And if you, I mean, if I spray cologne on one sheet of paper and send it in, I'm like, ooh, that's a nice resume. Or I'm like, oh, they sprayed cologne, trash it.
Well, and
So,
So you think that being in person gives someone an unfair advantage?
Well, and this goes to exactly what Commissioner Johnson just said. You want that standout. How many meetings and stuff, though, are still conducted by Zoom? So if this is a person that we're, as a potential hire, maybe they're great in person, but they're not so great on camera. I mean, and we saw that even in our previous one, some people did better in one format than the other, just in the process.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Matt, but one of the things that I'm a little bit worried about is if one person decides that they want to do a virtual interview, then everyone else has to do that. So it's one person who, it could potentially be one person who decides everyone else's method of interviewing.
Well, and that's what I was saying, if we, and not for the first round be up to the candidates, we make that decision. So if the first round of candidates that we do, that would be virtual. And if there's any of the, are selected out of that for a second interview, those would be in person.
I would say, first interview, show your best self. If you're better on camera, go be on camera. If you're better in person, go be in person. It's up to the individual to determine how they are best presenting themselves. I mean, it's the same as, do we make everybody that come in wear a shirt and tie and business suit, or do we let them dress how they want to dress? Well, you let them dress how they want to dress because they're going to present their best self.
Well, I remember the one that we hired for our administrator, which was Ryan, and he was down in South Carolina. And
North Carolina.
he knew more about this county than what we did. And, I mean, it all depends on how much information they want to go through to make themselves look really good.
Yeah, I'm with,
And he had a suit jacket on, and he told us once he got hired, he had pajama bottoms on the bottom.
Well, and, yeah, it's.
I'm with
it's a virtual
Patrick,
world.
I'm with Patrick on this. I think that the first interview, if a person wants to be through a remote interview, they have that option.
Yeah.
If you want to be in person, you have that option. But, the second interview, I think could be more structured, but I believe the first interview should just be optional. I don't think that one person's choice should define how everybody else has to perform in their interview.
So
So,
just for clarification, I don't think he meant it the way that one person defines it. I think he was trying to say that the Board of Commissioners would determine that the first round of interviews would be all virtual. That's all.
I just-
That's how I was looking at it.
Yeah.
okay.
I just
Okay.
say if.
And we have a
person wants to
larger
come in
pool.
person, fine. If he
They
wants to
want
go
us
virtual,
go
that's fine.
virtual,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're beating it up
So
too
are
bad.
we good on dates then?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, we're okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can we put out a calendar of events just so we're all synced?
yeah. That would be nice.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
Invites.
Okay, we all set?
Yep.
Okay, general public comment.
Let me see if
Is there
anybody,
anything? General
on.
public comment?
real quick. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention there. No, there isn't any.
Okay. Commissioner comments?
Yeah, I'll
Commissioner
go.
Johnson?
I need to apologize to Commissioner Vangenhoven. I was wrong when I said that you were here when Rand Sadler was here. You weren't. It was a big mess 2 years ago, and
know.
it's hard to know who was where and keep track of it all. So
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
No worries.
Williams?
I would just like to remind the public that we have a survey out right now for the 5-year rec plan. We would really like to hear from the public about the development and management of our county parks moving forward. So it's very, very important. You can go to the Delta County website and many other places to grab that survey. So please participate. And then lastly, I want to mention that I was at the drug court graduation the other night. It's a fantastic graduation to attend. It always is a bit of a tearjerker for me. I have a lot of sort of family experience with addiction and recovery, and so I would encourage people to attend the drug court graduations if you can, and support them and support our graduates who are in our community who are every day working hard to stay clean and sober and do what's right for for themselves, their families, and their community. So I appreciate all that they have done. I appreciate the courts for providing this to people as an option. So thank you to everybody for that. That's it.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations to Ashley for accepting the airport manager's position. I think Ashley is going to do a phenomenal job at the airport. I've received several calls and emails from concerned people regarding her transition to the airport, and I have the utmost respect for Ms. Young for taking this role on. I think she's going to be a great asset for us. I think her longevity with that role will prove that. I can't thank her enough for stepping up twice when we needed her, the first 4-month stint and now as well. The amount of pressure that she's been under, the amount of deadlines that she's had to, be able to accomplish is a pretty insurmountable feat. And so I would just like to extend my thanks for that. The airport is my passion, and she's provided great monthly airport advisory board meetings. I just couldn't ask for anything better. She has a great relationship with our airport ops crew. And like I said earlier, TSA, Unify, FAA, Mead and Hunt. I look forward to a great working relationship with you as airport manager in the future. And thank you for all that you've done over the last 2 years as our administrator as well.
Commissioner Johnson.
Again, I'd like to congratulate you. And without duplicating some of what Commissioner Vangenhoven had mentioned, I do also think there's a bright future. One of the things, talking to other industry leaders that we had for the airport, was marketing is part of that economic development. And I know, it's like others, having received phone calls and emails, especially when you're looking at salary prices and where those wages lie, and versus what we can offer versus what we were finding out, not just in the surrounding area, but where that trend is nationally. It's very much a benefit to the county. So I think this is one of those that, as we look on beyond that first year, it starts to fit in closer to the 3, 5, 10-year plans of where we want to see the airport go to and to be able to grow. And again, with the longevity, this definitely, and skill set, definitely matches that criteria. One other one is someone also recently, for those that don't know, Dr. Ed Bigsby recently retired, I think, from the last of his other jobs. He was the county medical officer, I think, as one of them. That one's recently been handed off. He actually attended his last search and rescue meeting last night as a team member. But Doc was also one of those founding members of our rescue task force. And that's something that was very passionate about. It's one of those in the emergency preparedness, if there's some type of mass casualty event, that's what this group takes care of. There's probably not too many people in our community that hasn't been touched in one way or another by him. You may not realize it, but how involved he was in the community, especially in the medical profession. There's definitely items in there that would have directly affected a lot of people in our community. So in my time with the team, he had been a amazing teacher and mentor. And so, thank you, Doc, and enjoy your retirement.
So, Administrator Young.
I just want to thank you for all the kind words that you had just said to me. I'm not going far. I'm just a longer drive, I guess, to work. It's not just to the courthouse. So, and I'm sure I'll see two of you. You're on the advisory board, and then, I have 60 days or sooner. So it'll be a bright future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for doing what you do, Ashley. You've been amazing, and we're gonna miss you as an administrator. Okay, meeting schedule. May 6th, 2025, 5:15, right here at the boardroom. May 20th, 2025, 5:15, right here at the boardroom. And June 3rd, 2025, at 5:15, right here at the boardroom. There are no 30-day notices of appointments. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Need support?
Support.